Okay, welcome back, friends. So, we do now have the official list of all the heroes that will be released for Soul Exchange. What we do not have, mind you, is going to be a confirmed list of the amounts. So basically, I have gotten some information off of Impuzzled, which is where this list that you're seeing right here has come from. Okay. And these are guesstimates for the amounts. So first and foremost, I want to say do not hold me to these if they change around where anyone is located or positioned on this list. But I do trust that the creator of this particular graphic is pretty knowledgeable. I've spoken to him several times. So I think they were on the right path for guessing their way through. I think the toughest one to figure out here will be the yellows, and that's mostly because the yellows are not particularly great. So I'm not sure where they're even going to put them in the 5, 15, 30 range, because I think you can arguably interchange a lot of them to get there. So yeah, I mean, these are guesstimates. We'll kind of go from there. So first things first, let's talk about the first row. We'll go one at a time. The first one up is going to be Satin Pimenter. Okay, so Satin Pimenter is going to be a priority dispeller and a moth. We're going to get to a CP of 1549 with this hero. How do I feel about that? Look, here's the reality. If this is 5 souls and you can get yourself a priority dispeller at 5 souls, I don't think that's bad. Like, let's say you're free to play, right? You probably don't have a lot of priority dispellers that are within your reach. So I think there is value at this at 5. Now, I can't guarantee it's at 5, but if it is, I think a moth is definitely a very valuable character. You're also going to get the moth dust that, when cleansed, will put them to sleep, and various other things like slowing down their mana from the moth dust effect as well. So pretty interesting stuff. All right. Next up, we have Kolya. I do agree that he would be the hero that should probably be listed at 5. He is a very interesting garrison guard. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the garrison guards, this one is going to summon a Mega Minion. The Mega Minion is nice. It gives them a little bit extra health pool to work with, because you got to tear through the Mega Minion before you can get to them. And they will be recasting Mega Minions as a rather beefy health shield each time the special goes off. They are also resistant to mana reductions, and they're able to clear Wither with their Guard Rally. Now, that's a passive a lot of people have kind of forgotten about, because these heroes are at 1475 CP. And that is the downside, right? Look, you can get a Garrison Guard out of here if you really want to, but I really don't recommend investing behind the curve. And realistically, we are almost at 1775 for new hero releases. So, like, do you really want to invest in a character that's 300 points behind the CP curve? My suggestion is no. All right, moving on from there, we get Griffix. Griffix is a very interesting super elemental for Dark, has a costume. So mind you, if you get this character, you're not only going to have to level the base, but the costume as well. You do get a 1613 character for 5 potential souls, which sounds very interesting, but I will warn you that Griffix is a very niche character, has to do with mana manipulation, but I just don't think that this was a very impactful hero. And I would encourage you to Google a character if you're interested in them, because the truth is everyone on this list, well, maybe not some of these 5s, they might have been before my time. Most of the heroes on this list, I should have separate review videos for. And if you're really interested in selecting one, go rewatch the release video where I go into more detail about the hero, and it can help you maybe make up your mind from there. But Griffix, again, one I would not suggest. Rosanna is an Insanity hero for 5. Look, Insanity heroes are not my jam, but I will say this, they can be very good. If you know how to use Insanity and you are correctly utilizing it, it's a very powerful effect. And stacking Insanity heroes can be an effective approach to one of your teams. But for me, it's just not something I like. I don't like the idea of specials that can backfire on myself. It's just not an approach I would like to take. So even at 5, I would probably steer clear from Insanity heroes, but to each their own. Not saying they're bad, just giving you my opinion. All right, moving on from there, we get White Fang. White Fang is going to be a fox. Does a reasonable attack, but like, here's the deal. White Fang, again, is just a little bit older than I'd like. I understand these are 5 souls, but at 1497, we're not even at 1500 power. Like, you can split hairs and say that's close enough, but that's still 260-ish to 270-ish behind the current releases. Again, just like I talked about with the Garrison Guard, I just don't think that's a high enough CP to invest your Alpha Aethers into at this point to get good use out of them because this character is going to fall off the CP wagon before you know it. And I just don't recommend that. Okay, moving on. Let's talk about what we have in the supposed 15 tier soul range. Look, this is where we start getting more interesting. Some of these heroes are quite good. In fact, according to this list, we'll start out with Slaymire. I'm not going to lie. This is probably what I would consider to be the best pick here. And again, this got gold starred by the creator of this website. I think they were spot on. You're getting a hero that's just shy of 1700 CP for 15 souls. That is absolutely huge. We're not even talking a costume hero, mind you. This is a base hero at almost 1700. That, if we go back to the last Soul Exchange video, I guarantee you there was no one even remotely close to 1700 in there. In fact, this is probably a good 50 to 60, maybe even 70 CP jump over what was offered at 15 souls last time around. Not to mention Slaymire is actually a pretty interesting sniper type effect. He does operate at average speed, which is a little bit slower than I'd like for a sniper, but if he kills his target, he's going to give a large amount of boosted healing to the entire team. And also, if he doesn't kill his target, they're going to be hit with Paralyze one turn after they've been hit with this attack. So he's either going to snipe out his target to death, or you can use him vice versa to crowd control someone with the Paralyze effect. He has a lot of versatility. Because he's a slime, he also creates the slime mega minions, which can be very helpful for both his survivability and helping out some of his allies if he is killed, since he does give them to nearby when he is wiped out. So I do think Slaymire is very interesting at 15. I would say yes to that. Now, Lu Jianzhen, I'm sure I killed that. He's interesting. He is going to be a red monk from the Outlaws. So that's the Three Kingdoms portal. Look, Outlaws are crazy damage because of their special crit effects that come from their family bonus. It's a ton, and I do mean a ton of damage. Not to mention that this guy will give himself a buff so that the next special that he casts is even stronger than his first special. It's a pretty devastating effect. But what this guy does is damage, period. Okay? That's what he offers you. Like, don't ask much more out of this guy. He's not here for any of that. He's just going to pump out a large amount of AoE damage. And if that's something that you feel like you need in your roster, I do think he, even at 1615, which is quite a jump, that's 80 CP off of this slime, I do think there's value at 15 to get this guy, especially if you have a few other Three Kingdoms outlaws to pair him with. They do a devastatingly good job at reducing max health of your opponents very quickly when being paired together. So he could be worth it, especially if you already have outlaws ready to go. All right, next up, we get Orcure. Orcure is going to be our first healer available. Yeah, first healer on the list. This is a fast healer. It's an astral dwarf, which is nice. You're going to get some nice protections from that. Like they pretty much resist mana reductions and various other effects. Like, I do think he's okay, but being a druid class, he's not going to be particularly good at resisting things like mindless attack or paralyze or silence or any of that. That's all going to land on him, no problem. I do think he's fun because he gives growth as well. And there's not a ton of easy access growth heroes that you can get your hands on. Like, this guy could actually be a pretty decent, probably Titan healer too, offering you some growth to your allies while you're fighting the Titan. I do think there's room for him to be worthwhile. And also, if you are hunting for healers, he's not the worst thing out there. But look, we're going to get to this in just a moment. 1595 CP also is not what I would call the most amazing option. We're still under 1600 at this point, but like he'll do in a pinch. If you can't get to 30 and you need a healer, Orcure is not awful. All right. Vertigo. What do I say about this guy? He's another slime, and he's just basic, right? Like, look, he's a fast hit 3, if I remember correctly. And mind you, I'm doing a lot of this off the top of my head, which I'm sure I could have done a little more homework, but I usually keep a pretty good inventory of what everybody does in my head, which is kind of crazy. It's just something that I can do. So anyway, this guy's a fast hit 3. But that's pretty much the extent of it. Like, that's pretty much his jam, right? And that's fine. I'm not saying that's bad, because if you are working on building like a fast hit green team, like, he can fit that, right? He can be an addition to it and, you know, make sure that you get like 3 fast greens together. They'll all go off together. He can help complement a team like that. But individualistically, like, let's say you don't have other fast greens to pair him with. I don't think he does enough on his own to be significant. Like, you would really only select this guy as an additional piece to your fast green kill team. Otherwise, there are far better options. So I'm going to put him pretty low on the suggestion poll. All right, then we got Zazha, or whatever you want to say. Anyway, point is the yellow magic carpet hero. She's a pretty reasonable sniper, but not like what I would consider to be top tier. There's plenty of better snipers out there, but she's also not bad. I guess my point is this. Fine hero, way better choices in this 15 range. So I just don't see that as being a realistic choice. I would not recommend Zazha over the other heroes in this 15 tier. Okay, so that brings us down to the final tier, and this is where it starts getting juicy, right? You need 30 souls to turn in at this point. That's like this, so many. Like, we can have a whole separate conversation about how I don't think we needed to go from 20 to 30 souls for turn in. But before I harp on anything like that, I will say this list is a marked improvement over what they gave us last time. I'm not saying it's as good as I'd like it to be. Let's differentiate the two. But when I did my own mental preparation for this of what I expected them to give us, I thought we'd be getting heroes in the 640 to 650, or sorry, 1640 to 1650 range, right? I figured that's what they'd give us. I'm like, that would be in line because the strongest hero in the last one was like 1609, right? And I'm like, that's about 3 months worth of power curve adjustment. They'll probably give us somewhere in that same range. They did kick up their game a bit. So let's get into it. Let's take a look at what they did give us. So first and foremost, it looks like the creator of the page here decided that D'Artagnan is going to, or sorry, costume D'Artagnan is going to be the top pick. Now, look, everyone's got their own opinions on this, but I'm going to differ here. Before we get into it, I'm going to differ, and I'll explain why. Yes, this guy is the highest CP character in the portal, and he is at 1707, the only character who is breaking 1700 in the entire Soul Exchange list. But it's more, for me, a question of what this guy has to offer. He is a single target sniper that does a very heavy fire dot that will spread to nearby enemies. Look, it's a reasonable amount of damage at fast speed. It really is. And it's a reasonable dot that's going to spread out. It's going to hurt. Like, it will. He's good, but he's a sniper. And look, when you're doing something like Soul Exchange, I want you to understand this is one of the few moments within this game where you will get to actually pick what you get out of it, right? You're not relying on RNG to give you a 5-star and hope that it fits your roster. That's not what Soul Exchange is about. Soul Exchange is about choice, right? You choose the best fit for your roster. And because of this, I've talked about this before, I highly, highly, highly recommend that you use Soul Exchange to find your self-utility. Okay? Like, the utility that you are missing, you have an opportunity to fill that in. And my question is, given all the choices, all the things that you think would improve your roster, is getting a high damage sniper the best result out of that? When you can pick any of the available options on the board, is just picking the highest CP hero really the wisest choice to be made? And that's why I am veering a little bit away from Costume D'Artagnan. It's not that he isn't a good hero, okay? I'm not arguing that. I'm arguing that you're missing out on potential value from these other heroes. So let's get into what else there is. Second one up is going to be Hygrid. Hygrid was the very last Beowulf hero that was released out of the Beowulf portal. She is going to be the best healer in this particular Soul Exchange. She clocks in at 1681 CP. She is going to be an average speed healer that is going to, very importantly, give you a priority cleanse. All right? I cannot state to you enough how important that is and how rare that is to get on a healer in this particular game. I can probably count on both hands the number of healers that are specifically cleanse first, then heal for the party. It's not very many. Not just that, but she's also going to give you a 50% heal, which is a pretty healthy heal amount at average speed. Okay, as an example, we just had Kuchen costume drop yesterday, and he was a slow speed healer that does a 55% heal. Okay, yeah, it's higher, but only by 5%, and you got to get to slow instead of average. I would take the average heal all day long. The next thing about Hygrid, which makes her pretty good, of course, is that she is going to do the source of buffs. The source of buffs is going to sort of change things up here. If you're familiar with Beowulf heroes, you know that most of the time the source of buffs would buff one hero at random for your team. That's not what hers does. She's the only one who has a source of buffs that buffs the entire team each turn. And it will give you resistance to special skill damage and increase your healing received as well. So that increase to healing received is actually pretty important. If she heals again, she'll heal for even more than 50% on heroes. It's very interesting how she works. She's just very well designed. Not to mention you do get the Beowulf family bonus, which gives you that 75%, even if she's by herself, that if she takes special skill damage, she will cleanse the team of the latest cleansable effect. This may only occur once per turn with Beowulf heroes, as opposed to Astral Demons, which will do it regardless of the number of times they're hit per turn. So still pretty dang cool. I would say she gets my personal opinion for the best utility option. Okay, then we move on to Kesha. Kesha is a very interesting hero. Look, I like Kesha a lot. I think the biggest drawback to Kesha is that she is slow on paper. But that being said, she also has full flight momentum. So although she is slow on paper, she's more functioning at closer to average than slow. Okay? I'm not going to say she always gets to average because that's probably an inaccurate statement. But she can be average depending on how well full flight momentum goes for her. And for the most part, she's definitely going off faster than slow. So, there's that. She does a pretty darn powerful attack to all, and then she will do a dance effect. This dance effect is quite interesting to me. I think people underestimate how powerful the dance effects are, but maybe not right now, because we're all in this hero league right now, right? And part of the interesting part of this hero league is that Guardian Gazelle has been powerful again. And so I've run into quite a few teams where Guardian Gazelle is there with a, with a Toon Aerial as well. And that dance effect can really kind of mess with your system, right? Because you're trying to put dots and debuffs up and everything, and they're all just dancing away, avoiding everything you need to do. So look, Kesha is pretty great. So yeah, not to mention the other effects that come into play from the dance effect from this hero, where she's going to be increasing mana generation by 44% for everyone who's dancing, as well as reduce the damage taken by, I think, 47%. When you put those two things together, those types of effects can really control the field quite a bit. That much mana generation basically moves everyone up a speed tier. That's the easiest way to think about it. While they're dancing, if they were slow, they're average. Or if they were average, they're fast. If they were fast, they're very fast. That's basically what her effect is doing for the increased mana to the dancing heroes. Now, obviously, she can't make herself dance, so she functionally will not operate faster, but everyone else in the team will. And she has full flight momentum, which also helps her out as well. I think she is just an excellent hero, but you have to be willing to accept the fact that she is operating a little bit slower. But if you compare the utility options that she brings compared to a costume D'Artagnan, it's kind of hard to argue that she is worse. And at 1692 CP, she's really not that much below D'Artagnan. You're talking about a 15-point spread between the two. Plus, she is just a base character and does not require a costume level as well. So yeah, look, Kesha, arguably the best damager, I think, that we have here, especially considering she's a hit all. D'Artagnan may do a lot of damage at fast, but he's a sniper. I think we all know that snipers have a place in this game, but they are not what I would call the clutch hero. Kesha can be a clutch hero if she goes off, so just keep that in mind. Okay, finally, not finally, there's two more. Okay, next up, they had Ruan from Outlaws. Look, what confuses me here, and this is the problem with yellows this time around, is why is Ruan, and I know we're guessing, but why would Ruan be at 30 at 1588 when we have an outlaw over here in Lu Jian at 15 for 1615 CP, right? That doesn't theoretically make sense. They just offered a crappy yellow list. It's just bad. So, I mean, they have to put someone at 30, but none of these heroes, 1, 2, 3, none of those heroes are worth 30. So whoever they put there is just basically a ripoff. But in case he's not at 30, let me just tell you what I think of this guy. He's not bad. He's a pretty good hero for his time. His time just may have passed a little bit, and that's the problem. So at 1588, you are getting a hero that's going to hit all at fast speed. Now, here's where he gets interesting. It is a hit all at fast speed that does a reasonable amount of damage, leaves a water dot effect, also will priority dispel 2 effects off the enemies before the attack as well. That's all very good stuff, right? And when he crits, he's going to do some max health reduction. Look, I like this hero, but I certainly wouldn't like him for 30. And I think that's the point I'm trying to make. Even if they maybe stuck him at 15, I can make an argument for that to be possibly worth it. But I just don't know if either of these other 2 heroes would be above him. So I do think he'll probably go in at 30. Maybe they just felt like he does enough to warrant being up there, but like I don't see it at that CP level. I can't recommend him at 30, but I do think he's a good hero. Let's put it that way. All right. And last but not least, we get Vernon. And Vernon is cool. Like I hate to say it. Vernon's cool. When he came out at Valentine's Day event, I remember doing a review for him going, wow, that's a seasonal hero? Like that's genuinely quite good. Like very reasonable damage levels, control to the outer edges, and like hitting 2 of them with mindless heal. So not only are you going to shut down specials, you also get to heal your own team with the mindless heal effects. I mean, I don't know what else you want operating at fast speed. But here's the thing about Vernon. As cool as this character may be, he's a little bit niche, right? Like he's a little bit like clotheslined into a certain way because you can't control where he hits. He's going to hit the outer edge no matter what. And maybe that's not who you want to hit, right? What if their tank is almost dead, right? And you just kind of want to kill it. You're probably not going to get there. You can't. You can't with a character that's only going to hit the outer edges. So like there will be moments in which he just does not do the thing you need him to do. And that's the trade-off with this character. It doesn't make him bad. It just makes him more niche. And look, there are plenty of people who are going to stack very vulnerable heroes on the outer wings. It's been a strategy in this game for a long time. Put the weakest heroes out on the outer edge, right? But usually those weaker heroes are doing very important things, whether it be their healer or some sort of like really massive damage or whatever the case may be. You can control 2 of them with this character, assuming that they didn't put things out there like tunes or glass to reflect it. That's never fun. But I do think Vernon absolutely has the potential to pick on certain teams very well and can probably win you fights by himself if you're going up against the right opponent. So there you have it. That's our list, right? And honestly, like as much as I like Vernon, do I recommend him at 30? No. I mean, I want to say yes, but I don't know if he's worth it compared to his peers in this list. It's because you just get a choice, right? Like, look, if this was pulled at random and you pulled Vernon, I'd be like, look, you still got a great hero. Just level and be happy about it. But since you do get to pick here, and since I am strongly recommending that you pick utility over most other things, he's good, but what he does is not essential. You know what I'm saying? It's not like, it's not necessarily game-changing. It's not going to, he's just a good hero. He's not great in that aspect of things. I think utility-wise, you're getting a much better hero out of High Grid and Kesha at 30. Okay, so that's it. That's my thought process for this. Look, I will probably release another Soul Exchange video once it comes out, I believe Saturday. This is just kind of my initial thoughts. And as everyone's leading up to this, I know people are kind of debating, what should I do? Like, I just want to hear people talk about it. So that's what this video was. This is just me talking about it, okay, guys? Like, there will be a more detailed breakdown of the characters later, but for right now, this is just my overall thoughts, where I land on it, and ultimately, I do want to say that as Soul Exchange list goes, this is a pretty decent one. Could you say that you wanted more? Absolutely. We could always want more, but a marked improvement over what they were asking for the same price 3 months ago, and maybe there's room to show improvement in the future as well. But I do think they did a respectable step in the right direction for this list. All right, thanks for tuning in, everyone. We will talk to you in just a couple days. But actually, be on the lookout for the Gem Challenge Summon video. I'm going to do that too, because that's popping out tomorrow morning. So, you know, like, either you're going to get that from me tonight or tomorrow morning, depending on how much time I have to finish this all up, and we'll go from there.